رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Today, inshallah, we're going to do the ghusl for ladies and the shrouding. Okay, we're going to explain how to do that. So, if I have a dummy in front of me, I'll go through a PowerPoint, and I know those who are watching from our channel might not be able to see the PowerPoint, but inshallah, in the end, I will tell you where to download the PowerPoint from. So we have our person here, a potential dead person. What we're going to do is cover this person with a thick or a opaque dark cloth. Once I've covered the person, underneath, we're going to remove the clothing. Okay, inshallah. We'll remove the clothing so you don't expose the person. If you cannot remove the clothing, the best thing is to cut it. Okay. Once we've removed the clothing under our cloth, so the extent in which the aura should be covered, the place that should be covered, it differs between the fuqaha, the scholars. But because this comes into our ghusl pack, which was donated, alhamdulillah, to us, we will tell you where to, especially those people in the UK, where you can order these from, inshallah. So this pack that was donated, it has everything that you need, alhamdulillah. So we already have this cloth. We've removed the clothing. If we could just move from the now intention, al niyyah. The niyyah, you don't need to say it. Qawl al niyyah is not the statement. The statement of niyyah is not important. A niyyah for qalb is in the heart. Okay, so you have your niyyah in your heart. Start with that. Anyone Imam says that tasmiyah, which means the basmallah. Okay, so you can say your basmallah before you start, but there isn't a requirement from many other scholars on that. Now, the number of washes, this differs between each Imam. So you got the Hanfi, Malki, Shafi, and Hanbali madhab that differs. Shafi madhab is probably the closest to the hadith of Sahih Muslim. It says in Sahih Muslim that you could wash the deceased from 3, 5 or more times. Okay, and that's more in line with the hadith in Sahih Muslim. So how many times you wash the deceased? Minimum, as according to Abu Hanifa, is 3. And that's, I think, you can do it once, but minimum would be 3, according to, if we go to the next slide. So I know you can't see it, but inshallah, we'll share that with you later. So we won't go through the details of each Imam, because you'll have that too. What we're going to do is go through the hadiths. So you see, if you go back, so you'll see that they differ in the amount of washes they do, but we're going to go with the first one. 3 is minimum, but you can do 1, inshallah. And there's no maximum limit, even though some scholars say maximum limit is 7. There is no maximum limit, inshallah. Covering the part, so mostly the scholars have said from the navel to the knees is your aura. You need to cover this part, except for Imam Ibn Hanbal. He said cover the full nakedness. So that's if you have to say you need to wash somebody and you move the cloth and you moved it up to the knees, that's acceptable because you're covering the aura. But because alhamdulillah we have a nice big cloth, we're going to use that and cover as much as we can of the deceased. We want to respect that. So obviously we've talked about removing clothing. There is one hadith which, when the Prophet ﷺ died, there was a dispute about removing his clothes, and there was a voice saying that you should remove them. So removing clothes is good. Apart from Imam Shafi, he says you could wash it under, like if the sleeve is big enough, you could wash it under there. If not, you can remove them, inshallah. So we will go through the opinions very quickly, but inshallah. So what we're going to do is try and get water and sidr. So sidr leaves, you could diffuse them in water, cool the water down, boil it with the water, cool it down and use it. It should be lukewarm. Some say use cold, not too cold, but a cold water, as long as it's not, the temperature is a neutral temperature. It's not too hot and it's not too cold. If you feel the deceased is not going to be clean, you might need to use a slightly warmer water, inshallah. So the first thing we want to do is press the stomach of the deceased very, very lightly. Why do we do that? So we can release the najasa, the impurities of this person. Okay. Now, is there hadith for that? No, there isn't a hadith, but scholar is in line with scholarly opinion. Scholars say that if you just press the stomach very lightly, release the impurities and wash them away before you start your wudu, inshallah. So we could do that. Some say you can lift the deceased, and then if you stand behind them, make them lean uh, on you, and then just press with one hand very ever so lightly. And then you could press that. What we're going to use first is clean the private parts, and what we're going to do, so we could use these gloves, so we're not directly touching the deceased, inshallah. I think that might be mine, by the way. So in this one, so we could use these and a cloth. So scholars have recommended using a cloth. Wrap your hand up, okay? And what you want to do is go under this cloth, and you want to clean the private parts. You want to do it with the left hand, okay? You don't want to do it with the right hand. So you want to clean the private parts, okay? So anything that comes out, you got somebody helping you. So you should work as a team. So you got somebody helping you. They're going to be using the water, washing away. You can use plain water, okay, and you can use soap. So some people, so what you could do is just use some soap lightly, inshallah, and then wash in between. So you could slightly move the legs, wash. Okay, you got somebody doing the water. Then you obviously need help. What we're going to do is lift the deceased slightly, like that, hold them, and then obviously wash from the back, inshallah. And you could do that. So we're doing it once, okay, just to show, but you will repeat it. Once we've done that, we wash the private parts. We're going to start with ablution, wudu. Start with the right, then we go with the left. So we're going to start, so obviously to show you, I will use this side. So I will use this side, inshallah. Okay, so this is, say, the right. So what I'm going to do is wash the hand. Okay, so to both sides, wash it once, twice. Third time, if I've got comfort, I'm going to leave it and mix comfort in the last wash. So I could do that once or twice. I'll come on to the other side. Once we've done the hand washing, we're going to get some cotton. We're going to wet that. I'm going to lift the head of our deceased, and we're going to clean the mouth with a cotton wool. You could get some more cotton wool or a bud, something like that, and you could also put that in the water, lift your deceased, and clean the nostrils, and use one for one side and the other for the other. If you need more, because if there's too much blood coming out, you might need more. Do that. If the blood is not stopping, just you can use some cotton and just place it in the nostrils of the person, inshallah. I think only according to Abu Hanifa, you don't have to do the gargling in the mouth and the nostrils. According to everybody else, you should clean that. Once you've done that, we're going to go and clean. Okay, so we've done that. We're going to do our wudu. So that's your arms. Okay, after you've done your arms, we're going to go to the face. Okay, so once you've done the face, inshallah, you're going to do the ears as well. So you could again use some cotton to wipe inside the ears. After the ears, we want to go to the head. If you go back, yeah, inshallah, head. And if the deceased was a male and he had a beard, you'd wash the beard. Wash the hair, comb it, and then plait it. And this is in the Sahih Hadith. Okay, so in Bukhari, when Kulthum, she passed away, when she was washed, her hair was parted into three and it was plaited. So she had a plait in the middle and she had a plait on the sides, right and left, halfway going to the back of her head. Then all those three plaits were entwined into one long plait. And then you could let that fall behind. So you wash the head because the washing now replaces the passing over wet hands. So usually in the wudu, you pass your wet hands over your head. So you won't do that in ghusl. You will actually now wash your head. And this is exactly the way you should be doing ghusl as well. After your hide, or if you're in janaba, after that you should be washing yourself in that way as well, inshallah. Once we've done that, we're going to go to the feet, and we're still doing ablution. Okay, we're going to go to the feet and we're going to wash the feet. Then we're going to start washing from the right side. Okay, so there's two forward, inshallah. Okay, so we're going to go to the right side, wash the right side. Okay, so you begin from the right side. You're going to wash the front and you're going to wash the back. You're going to start from the shoulder. You don't need to go all the way back to the head. You need to start from the shoulder. You wash the front and all the way in the middle. Okay, so you want to include the middle part of this deceased. And again, I'm going to show from this side because I'm too far from that side. But you're going to be washing with you can have those gloves on. You don't need to use a cloth. You could be just washing away. You could put some soap on your hands and you could wash the deceased. And I'm going to be washing the leg. Okay, and once I've done the right side, I'm going to show you from here. I'm going to tilt the deceased. So you're going to have people helping you and tilt the deceased, and then you're going to wash the back. And you got somebody helping you with the water, and you want to be passing your hand around. Once you've done the right side, you'll move on to the left, front and back. Once we finish that, okay, because when you wash the feet, please make sure in wudu, when you wash the feet just before, because we talked about washing the feet, but I didn't explain up to where. So you have to wash up to your ankles, at least there. Want to wash your feet, get the water in between your toes. You don't need to scrub, you don't need to rub, as long as the water goes everywhere. That's in your wudu. Once you've done that, when you're washing the right side, you want to again just wash the full right side, the middle and the back. Move on to the left, front and back. Inshallah. So this is summarization. So we've done the right side, we've done the left. This is a summarization. Okay, so those of you watching online, we will share the PowerPoint. This is a summarization of the ghusl according to each madhab. Because last week when I went to Nottingham, you got people like Arabs coming from Africa. You got people coming from different parts of Asia. Some are following Hanfi, some are following Shafi, some are Hanbali. So we try to accommodate, inshallah, everybody. So if we go through them, inshallah, yes. Okay, so hair of the deceased I've spoken about. You can dry the hair as well. If it's dripping before you want to plait it, you can dry it, inshallah. Okay. Clipping of nails and shaving. Now, except for Ibn Hazm, all the four madahibs, Hanfi, Shafi, Malki, and Hanbali, have said you don't need to remove hair of the deceased and you don't need to clip their nails. Except for Hanbali, they said if it's long, yeah, you can file it down. But really, that's not, because everyone should be cutting their nails and removing their pubic hair after every 40 days anyway. So that's not part of your ghusl. Drying the deceased. So we've wet this cloth. What we're going to do is get our towel. You're going to get a few ladies with you who are going to help you, and you're going to hold the towel over the person. You're not going to place the towel directly because you're going to wet the towel. You want to place it over the top. While you've placed it, somebody from underneath is going to remove that wet cloth, inshallah. So you want to keep the nakedness of the deceased covered at all times. Once we remove that, we want to tap the person dry, okay? Because even though there's no hadith on it, but a lot of scholarly opinion says the person who dies feels a lot of pain, and this is just is some scholars who've said that. Now there is an ayah in the Quran. It says, if you could see al-malaika, if you could see the angels, yadribuna, striking them, wajuhakum wa adbarakum, their faces, wajuhakum, and their backs. If you can see the angels when they take the souls of the disbelievers, they are striking them. And if you could see that, how they strike them, and then they say, وَذُوقُوا عَذَابُ الْحَرِيقِ. What does that mean? It means now taste the blazing fire. Taste it. That's why in the Quran it says, "Kulu nafsan dhaikal maut." You will taste the death. So everybody, and that doesn't mean if you have a difficult death you're a bad person. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, really the death is there's pangs of death. You will feel the soul being extracted from you. So in that time you should read, and if somebody is dying, the best thing you could do is get wet water and just tap it around the face. This is exactly what Aisha radiallahu anha did to the Prophet ﷺ. When somebody's dying, whisper in the ear the shahada. Whisper in the ear the shahada. If the dying person says the shahada, inshallah they'll be going to Jannah. So what should you be doing? You should, because the Prophet ﷺ said al malaika, they have come down. They are amongst you, say good things. Do not speak bad about the dead. Read the Quran while the person's dying, not after they're dead. Okay. So the misconception that after they're dead you read the Quran. No, it's during their dying days. You know, sometimes we know that our family members are going to pass away. So we go in the hospital, we visit them, we'll sit by them. And a lot of the time we're talking to them. Rather than talking to them, open the Quran and read. Now, there is some opinions that it should be Surah Yasin. That's it doesn't have to be Surah Yasin. It's there's some weakness in the hadith. But why do the scholars prefer Surah Yasin? Because it has glad tidings for the person who's going. It talks about the hereafter. So that's why some favored Surah Yasin. But you can, the authentic opinion is you could read any part of the Quran in the presence of the dying person, inshallah. So uh, tell the person to say the Shahada. If the person said the Shahada, please don't let them speak again. Don't let them speak after they've said the Shahada. Shahada should be the last thing. If they've uttered it, Alhamdulillah, we allow them to utter that. Um, yes, and that's it. So say good things, read the Quran, and um, don't let them speak after that, inshallah. And you could read any verses of the Quran. The dying person at that time should have a good intention of Allah. You should think good about Allah. Have good niyyah. That, oh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm going to him. He's a, Rahman or Rahim. He's the merciful one. Think good. Have positive thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah. Perfuming. Okay, so we've got some atar. Okay, we're going to perfume our deceased. Anybody know which parts to perfume? No? Amara, you want to guess? Jazakumullah khair. Okay. So sister said the sajada, meaning the prayer mat. Those parts that touch the sajada, the prayer mat, or the when you're doing sujood, the parts that touch not the sajada, but it's the parts that touch the ground in sujood. So what are those parts? Your forehead, nose, the inner palms, okay, knees, and the toes. Some scholars have said the entire body should be perfumed. Some have said where the dirt, like Ibn Qudama, he said where the dirt gathers, like under your armpits, behind your ears, anywhere there's like a bad smell. But yeah, Jazakumullah khair, thank you. So you're going to put the atar on the forehead, nose, okay, and you perfume. If you want to perfume, then oh, by the way, we forgot the last wash. Before we do that, the last wash we can use comfort. So if you've got something like this, you want to crush it into the water, and you want to pour the water over the deceased. You should have like a small bucket where you could crush some of that comfort in the last wash, inshallah. Once we've perfumed the deceased, inshallah, our deceased is inshallah ready for shrouding. Are we on the shrouding already? MashaAllah. So I didn't do the shrouding because I really wanted to show you, inshallah, how to do the shrouding. So if you could just place that, Jazakumullah khair, thank you. So I've got my shrouding here. Again, alhamdulillah, this was donated by Madina stores in Derby. Anybody who, we will set their details in the YouTube, anybody who's in the UK, because why am I saying that? They didn't pay me to promote them. No, the reason why I'm saying that because I went online to check for Shroud within the UK all the way up to London, and I couldn't find any Shroud that was cut into pieces. So you can order it, but it's in 10 meters. You have to cut it yourselves. These, alhamdulillah, have already come to us in pieces. Okay. So what we're going to do first, we've got our tie backs, which is what we're going to use. So the tie backs, we're going to put one to the head, inshallah, close to the head. Okay. So That's our first one. The second one, we're going to put it slightly in the middle, the waist. Put that there. And the last one, we want to place it towards our feet, inshallah. So, bismillah. Once I've done that, once I've placed my tie backs, I want to get the largest two shrouds, which is called the milafa or lifafas. Okay, and these are your outer parts, the largest ones. So this sometimes it's done for you. If it's not been done, then inshallah, just put the mic here. Don't worry if it's not perfect, because just want you to get the idea. Okay, so if I've thrown my tie back, it doesn't matter, I'll show you how it's done. That's one. My second long piece also goes over it, inshallah. Now the tricky part is my chemise, which is the same size. So this one should be a plain white long cloth, unstitched. Now there is, I could have said this before, but I wanted to show people how to do it, because I think there's many people that don't know how to. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. Once I've done that, is this smaller piece. Now, there's difference of opinion why we use this piece or where we use this piece. Now, on it, it says in Urdu and in English, sinaband. And this basically is a word that originates from Indian language, and it means that you put this either across your chest like that, or from the chest to the knees like that, according to the Hanfis. Okay. The other three scholars say this is the izhar or izar, the izar. So you put the izar here, a waist wrapper, and you wrap the deceased. This is for man and woman. The waist wrapper is for both man and woman. When Ghusl was getting the ghusl done, the Prophet, the first thing he gave was his izar. Okay, the izhar. So I'm going to go with that because it's more in line with the hadith. But because a lot of people follow Hanfi, they will put it as a chest wrapper, wrap it on the chest, but it's not what's been mentioned in the hadith. In the hadith, if you read the Bukhari Muslim, it says it's a waist wrapper. Because, and when I looked into it, it is called Fatwa Hindiya, which means it's a fatwa that comes from India. So this is according to some Indian scholars. Okay, so here's my ithar. This is, and it's 5 for ladies, shrouding pieces, 5 for ladies, and 3 for men. However, even if a woman gets shrouded into 3, it's acceptable. It's okay. It's, you know, why? Because the hadith about 5, the authenticity has been disputed. It's disputed because it's daif, but scholars accept it, and the fuqaha and the teachers accepted the woman was shrouded in 5, so we go with that. That's the layout of my shrouding. Once we've toweled, by the way, once we've toweled, dried the deceased, we're getting you another fabric that's dry, because we've placed a wet one already there. So we get a new one because now the towel is wet as well. We don't want to wet the shroud. So again, somebody's going to hold it over the deceased. So say I've got a few helpers, they're holding it over. While they're holding it, I'm going to remove the towel. I'm going to remove the towel. And I'm going to start shrouding the person. So first thing I want to do is put my izhar on this. So I'm going to do that, and I can, because it's from the waist. Once I've done one, so right, so the right first and then the left. It doesn't matter. You can do it either way, but some have preferred to do the right side than the left. But there's nothing in the hadith to say you have to do the right or the left. Okay, they just said shrouding. This is why um, in my step-by-step guides, I said there's no real method of shrouding. You can shroud, and we want to keep our deceased covered. So once we've done that, we want to take our gamise or chemise and we want to place it over our deceased. So we get the head slowly with the help of our washers and shrouders. We now put the chemise. We're going to lift slowly and we're going to bring the gamise down. Even if you can't, you won't be able to lift because this is a dummy. So what you want to do is roll it. You want to roll the deceased. Once you've rolled it, you get one side in, remove the other side, and then what you're going to do is pull. So last time we did it, we had somebody there that was pulling, there you go, pulling the chemise in. Alhamdulillah. So they're the 2 points. Now, in a male shroud, they do have a chemise because there are some hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ gave his kameez to somebody for shroud. So scholars have said it is allowed, though Imam Nawawi said it's makruh to use a chemise, but scholars have said there is hadith to permit it. However, was the Prophet shrouded in a chemise? Did he have one? No. Did he have the turban? No. So he was shrouded in 3 pieces, the 2 outer one and the ithhar. Okay. So once we've got the chemise on, now I prefer to use unstitched hijab. So we then fix the hijab on our deceased lady. Okay, so once we've covered her, so the washers of the Prophet's daughter said we shrouded her as a living woman would be covered. So cover your deceased as a. So you want to leave some room from. Also, sorry, I did forget to mention, but you have incense burners that you can perfume the shroud with. Okay, so say before I place the deceased, I just go round the shroud with the incense burner. Okay, you're not allowed to perfume the shroud. You shouldn't. You don't want to stain it. You don't want to perfume it, but you can go, according to some narrations, that you can go around and perfume your shroud. Once if you've done that, I'm going to take, inshallah, one side. Okay, so preferably the right, but it doesn't matter. It should be, inshallah, enough from one side. So I've obviously, with me doing it alone today, it's difficult to see how much shroud that we should need on that side. So we've got a bit more than what we wanted on that side. So ideally we should have extra here, but that's a little bit too much. So we want to keep it a bit more, but because I'm doing it alone, it was a bit difficult. So we want to leave the face there uncovered for now. Once I've bought my shrouding, okay, Bismillah. Obviously, once everybody's paid their respects, you then cover in the end. So you can leave it uncovered, but then you will cover the deceased. Okay. And then here's why we've got the tie backs already. So it's easier for us to tie. So I'm not going to knot it now, but it's easier for us to tie. So yeah, don't worry. So there's 3. One's fallen obviously, but and then you got one closer to the feet area, and then you've shrouded. So that's the process. It's not difficult. We do have, just pass me those what we have done is we have a step-to-step guide, because a lot of people, you might know how to do wudu and ghusl, but imagine this is a loved one. You forget. I do wudu all the time, but sometimes when I was doing the course, I forget that I'm supposed to be doing the washing of the head. So we have a step-to-step guide for shrouding for male and female, and we have a ghusl step-to-step guide. So I'll give these to you today to do the workshop, inshallah, after we've taken some questions. You can, obviously, the organizers will tell you where to access them. You can download this and keep it on your phone. It's really good idea to have these, because I remember many years ago when I was studying in Damascus, I asked them first when I went to study fiqh to teach me the fiqh of ghusl. And they said, why would you need to know that? And I said, because they said in our country, in Muslim countries, they have people in the mosques that wash the dead. And they were surprised when I told them in our countries here in the West, we don't have that. So we have to wash our own disease. So we have to learn this fiqh. We have to, even if you don't want to learn the fiqh, at least learn the process according to the sunnah. So this is according to the sunnah. So step-to-step guide, very easy to follow. Share it and save it on your phones, inshallah. Right. So any questions from online? We'll take online, then we'll take from you, sisters, inshallah. Okay. Yeah, so somebody has asked, what do you do if somebody dies and the eyes and mouth are open? Are we allowed to close them? There is a hadith about the eyes. Okay, not about the mouth, but there is a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said the eye follows the malaik, they follow the angels. So what you should do is close them. Yes, you could close them out if you can. Okay, and also what more experienced people who wash the deceased say is straighten the body, straighten the limbs, because after some time they'll stiffen up. However, once you do the ghusl, they will go back to good consistency. Can we sew the shroud fabric into long shirt, or should it be a loose shroud? It's preferable. It's preferable to have a shroud that's not sewn. Okay, so like this, we have kameez, so we have the chemise. Yeah, the only thing you have is a cutting for your neck to go in, for you to pull over your head, but it's not stitched. However, there is a hadith in which somebody came and gave, I don't know if it was a male or female, but gifted the Prophet ﷺ a izhar, yes, and she had uh, sewn it or stitched it together. So it's two pieces. She stitched it together to make it longer. So, and there was a man who asked the Prophet ﷺ for it, and the people were angry. They said, why did you ask the Prophet when he needed this waist wrapper? He wrapped it around. He said, why did you ask? He was in need of it. And he said, I knew he wouldn't refuse, but I wanted to use it for my shrouding, for the coffin. So based on that, two things. Yes, you can prepare for your shroud, your coffin during your life. And one other thing, you should pay for it. Should come from your money. You should, when the person dies, the Prophet said, buy the shroud from the deceased's money. And the other thing, if it's short, you can, according to one hadith, you can, or what the implication is that yeah, they can be, but what's better is that they're not stitched. That's the the best is that they're not stitched and they're unstitched, because there's many hadith that are sahih that say that you use the shroud that's not stitched together. Inshallah. Is that the two questions? Is there any questions here from any sisters? Yes, sister. So you mean they get a peg, and do they hold the cuff of cotton? Yeah. Yes, yes. Right. Okay. So you're saying they're made out of wool? Oh, cotton, cotton. Yeah. So they gather together some, and they just put like other substance like rose water, and some have said you can use it, like use rose water for the shroud, for the deceased. But you mean place it inside the shroud? Yeah. Yeah. No, that's not according to the sunnah or anything that I've come across. There should be nothing that you place inside with the body. So you guess that what's been documented. So this is why what we have. You can use a perfume, but what they've said, what the scholars said, use a like a perfume, a musk or something, and then you just apply it. You get a cotton wool. You can apply it on the places of prostration, as you said, sister. And other scholars have said, shroud the entire body, but to get some cotton and to put, because why, there's an hadith in which a man, he placed a garment with the prophet while he was being buried, and the companions objected to that, and they took it out before he was buried. So so if we go with that narration, yes, there should be nothing extra, even fabric that we put. It should be just our kafan, inshallah. I hope that answers the question. Oh. Okay, when tying in the end, is that the one? Yeah, okay. When tying in the end, should it be tied above the head or around the head? Okay, so that's a good question, but uh, mine's a little bit down. So just under the head, you don't want to place it over the head because you want to keep the. What's the idea of tying? Did the hadith say to tie the shroud? Is there hadith on it to tie it? No, there's no hadith to say tie the shroud afterwards. The acceptable is you just place the shroud, and even scholars say when you lower the person, you loosen the shroud, you loosen it, so you don't. So here, I would say here under the head, not over it. Why? Because you're trying to hold it. Is that is it right or wrong? If you want to do over the head, if you want to do, if that wrong or right, it's acceptable. Am I doing it under the head? Is it right or wrong? It's acceptable. This one's supposed to be around the waist. If I don't do it on the waist, if I do it at the hip, still acceptable. Why? The purpose is to keep them together. Even if I don't use these, my shroud is acceptable because it's according to the hadith. This tiebacks is what people have introduced. So, but really, if I don't have this, I can still lift the deceased. But just on the safe side, what people have done is use the tiebacks. Okay, so is there a position? No. Is there anything like, what, through experience, what they've done is tie one close to the head, waist, and the feet. So is there any more questions? No more questions? Okay, jazakumullah khair. Thank you for watching. I hope you find this workshop beneficial. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.